In this video, I am going to talk about the roles in which I think are important in a live performance, and later I'm going to show you two contracts, which one has been done by a lawyer and the other has been written up by me. Firstly, we are going to talk about which I think is important, account manager, which they do strategies for like artist managers, as well as keeping their budget and make sure they gain money and not lose it. They could be specifically for one person or one band, or for the actual whole company, but a big label might have more than one. Depends. Their abilities is mainly to handle money, so you're good with money, and budgeting, making sure that they don't lose any of your money. Secondly, a roadie, and their job is to set up, like knowing how to set up a stage, lights if needed, amps, like microphone stands, but also driving as well, so getting the gear from one place to another, like within like the certain time limit they have. Next is an A&R, well, artist and repertoire. In a big label, they'll have three labels, like three levels: a scout, like the artist repertoire manager, and like the assistant, but a bit lower than him. But in small labels, they will just probably have one. A music publisher will work together with an artist repertoire, but sometimes the artist repertoire will be their music publisher as well in a small label. Pros about being an A&R would be that you get to listen to music, get to go find new talent. And the cons would be that listening to too much music might get on your nerves, or being away from your family for quite a bit, like always travelling around from one venue to another. Artist booker or a booking agent, they will book artists for TV shows, radio, gigs, festivals. They also work with the artist and the people in charge of the venues. They will negotiate for the venue needs and the artist, as well as collect the contracts. So they will read the contracts and then get the artist to sign them. Well, that will be done before the deposit is put down, and also selling promotional materials to them. So it could be like t-shirts, CDs, you know. That is only if they are working for a small label. A business consultant, in my eyes, is quite important because they analyse music and trends that are going on today. They will recommend what would be good to do at that time, like put out a new music video or go touring. But they must have a full understanding to, like, when being recommended for the job, they must know a full understanding of the music industry. And a good example of this is a Nokia and Sony deal in 2008. Like, Sony brought Nokia, and then on the Nokia phones, like, certain songs from Sony were free to download. Like operator, clearly they do set up, pack away. They can manage budgets if they're like a really small company. They'll do risk assessments and equipment checks, and look at the plan of how it's set up, and then work around the lights from there. And communicating with like other team members to make sure the lights are all good, and learn all about the new programming. So if there's a new program that comes out and a certain venue uses it, they must know how to use it clearly. Backline technician, they give technical support at events, so it'll be gigs and festivals. They must learn to use all the different needs that are available, like drums, guitars, like microphones. So if they need changing, like they quickly change them. There'll be one for a small group, like small company, but a big label could have loads of background guitarists. So they have one for guitar, one for drums, one for a vocalist, and they set up and unload the van. They must know about the guitar pedals as well, so like the different effects you can use for them. And their responsibilities is fixing instruments and moving the equipment around. So if a band has their own stuff, they must move it off the stage and get that up and running quickly. Marketing, so we sales of tickets, merchandise and records. So like they will keep record of what is sold online and in stores. They will put their ideas pitched forward to the manager. So if something changes in the public, they will put their idea forward and see what is said about it. But they will also see what has worked in the past and then see what hasn't worked and keeping that in mind. Ticketing links into the marketing as well, but it can be done like over the internet or via like people or venue, so you could go buy tickets from there. Video operator, they use complex technical stuff, like different cameras and programs that are available. They work with other camera people, so they must know when they change their angles and put it on certain things, and clearly they set up as well. They've studied the whole area, so they know where it's best to put their cameras, and they do a health and safety check. The sound engineer does a sound check with the bands when they first get there to make sure their levels are good, but they will always check throughout the whole gig that the levels are okay. Monitor engineer, they in a big record label will probably have these, so they will do the in-ear monitors to make sure they can hear themselves, whereas in a small record label they probably wouldn't have these, so the sound engineer would have to do this as well. But a monitor engineer is similar to a sound engineer but has a different role. A promoter helps the artist reach out to the public, so we sell CDs, put out flyers and posters. Sometimes they pay the band after a gig, so they will go collect the money and then hand it to them. They will also make sure everything is set like before they will go on stage at a small gig, like a pub, and all their covers are probably cost by the manager. Artist manager itself promotes artists, so finds the right people for the right job, so they'll go find the best A&R scouts, the right publishers, but they also run their career, an artist's career, so whatever they say goes basically. They will negotiate contracts with them at the beginning, so they will hand you a contract, which I have printed out one, and I will show you later, or I'll show you now actually. This is what it will look like, but you would need to sit down with a manager, well, your A&R scout, to read through it, or a lawyer. They would advise you on what to do. So what's right, what they think is right, is probably right, because they must know about the music industry to be able to be a manager. They will do very long hours, from doing paperwork to sitting down with artists. They get 15%, 10 to 15% of fees from artists before the artists have paid out anything else to anybody else. And they must have a business background to be able to get the job, or have qualifications in that, or like started at the bottom by doing voluntary work and then like eventually hitting a manager. And now I'm going to show you a contract that I have written up, which will probably be from a pub for a small artist before he gets signed, which is like that. And that is my video on roles and contracts.